Fix Washington. Now from the state capitol, here's Hannah Scott.
Welcome to another edition of the Fix Washington podcast. I'm your host this week, Peter Abbarno, State Representative in the 20th Legislative District and the House Republican Caucus Chair. My special guest this week is State Representative Mark Klicker. How are you, Mark?
Well, great, Peter. It's great to be with you.
All right, so tell all our Fix Washington podcast viewers a little bit about who you are and your district.
Well, I come from Walla Walla, Washington, and I serve the 16th district, and I come from a multi-generational family, and that's kind of where I come from. It's a farm family, and we go way back.
Yeah, so you come from a whole long line of farmers.
We do, and we're a diversified farm, and everything from mountains to down into the Walla Walla Valley, and we spend a lot of our time working in the mountains and down in the valley farm.
So farming is vast, right? Farming's a big word in reality. So what do you farm? Is it crops? Is it do you harvest? Do you have animals? What kind of farming do you do?
Right, very diversified. And over the years, as the younger generations have grown up, some of the farms we've sold off, but everything from wheat, cattle, strawberries, timber, alfalfa. Cherries. I used to raise cherries myself, and so we very diversified, both dry land and irrigated properties.
So what kind of cherries are Rainier cherries? What Bing cherries? What kind?
Our cherries were the earliest in the state for a number of years. We had a variety called Chelan. They're just like a Bing. They probably aren't as flavorful as the Bing is, but we also raised Rainiers as pollinators. But these cherries were early because the key to it is trying to get an early harvest right after the California to take advantage of the market. And then we also had some mountain cherries that were actually dryland mountain cherries way up high in the mountains, and they were at one time were the latest basically in the lower 48. So we took advantage of both our early cherries and our late cherries, try to take advantage of the price.
Well, I guarantee our Fix Washington podcast listeners did not know that they were going to get a cherry education today. So tell us a little bit about what committees you serve on.
I serve on local government as ranking member.
Okay.
And there's not very many people on our side. There's 4 on the majority and 3 that serve on our side. And I serve as the ranking member. I'm also on the Environment Energy Committee, serve on the same way as you do.
Yep.
And I serve as a vice ranking member. And then I serve on the Transportation Committee. And out of my district, there's the surrounding districts around where I live, out of Walla Walla and the Tri-Cities. There are a number of districts, and I am the only one within all those districts that serve on transportation. So that's really critical that I'm in those on that committee.
Well, talk a little bit about some of your other committees, because transportation is a very important fiscal committee. But I think most of our Fix Washington podcasters know what transportation is, right, and what it covers. Talk about some of your other committees and what issues you deal with in those.
And so the local government committee is really a very important one. It's actually one I wanted to be on, even though I've never served in local government. I go way back with the Growth Management Act, actually from the inception of the Growth Management Act. And that was a law that was passed that really forced different counties to opt in. And even though if they didn't want to, if they didn't opt in, then they wouldn't be able to get any type of state help from the state. Then there have been different levels that have been added on to the bureaucracy of the Growth Management Act, and I believe it's something that needs to be fixed. So I really wanted to be a part of it, knowing that we won't be able to maybe get too much fixed, but it's important to be on. And then on the Energy Environment Committee, that is so crucial to what we're dealing with, primarily because in my district we have Hanford, we have the hydroelectric dams, and energy's huge. And as we're trying to cut back and there's the threat of trying to take out the dams, we need to make sure we protect at least our district, but the rest of the state.
Yeah. So these committees really fit not just you, but really fit your community. I mean, you're kind of fashioning yourself as a local government champion with all these committees that you're on.
Absolutely. It really seems to fit my wheelhouse. Maybe I don't know the details of how local government operates, but local government is so important to the people that operate within it and outside of it. And so we have to help people and help them better understand what local government can do and what they can't do. And so I'm really I really believe first in private property rights, then local government, and then state government, and then the federal government, and that order. A lot of times they work with, federal government comes first, and then hand things down to state government, then local government, then private property rights are kind of the last in the food chain.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important we look at it the other way, because private property rights are so important.
Yeah. And so what are some of the things that you want to tell your constituents back in your district, back in Walla Walla, about what you do here? Like what is if you had to give them one thing that you do here that is the most impactful, what would you tell them?
I love to build bridges.
Yeah.
And being in a minority party, which is we've lost some members, and so we're in a minority party, and so we're trying to help get legislation across the line. And so many times there's some controversial bills or bills that are really struggling, and I like to bring people together. I like to put together meetings on both sides of the aisle, which include also the lobbyists that are involved that don't like it, that may hurt their either organization or their businesses. And I try to get the person that's introducing the bill, that is sponsoring the bill, together with either the lobbyists or other members that are disagreeing with it, and try to find a solution. That's what I feel I do best.
Yeah. So you're really the living proof that even in the minority party, you can get things done here.
Yeah, I think I kind of found my place being able to do that. I don't introduce a lot of bills. Any of the bills I do, our bills have to fit within the parameters of what the majority party is going to allow us to do. Right. So what I try to do is work within those parameters, introduce bills that are going to fit, that we can pass and get into law.
Right. And so once the 105-day session is over, you go back to your district. What are some of the things that you are going to do when you get back to the district?
Well, so what I'll do is I'll have a town hall or two, and then I really try to pay attention to my constituents. Right. I have meetings with them. I go and tour the different businesses and different places that need some of our attention, and to find out what is it that they need help on. What are some of the issues they're dealing with? And it doesn't matter if it's a local issue or if it's a federal issue or statewide issue. I will go in, work with my constituents. It doesn't matter if they are liberal or conservative or whatever they may be. I'm there to help that constituent. And it's really fun because you build those relationships.
Right. And before you get back, before the session's over in the 105-day session, there's a lot of policies that you've been advocating for and against. Do you want to name a couple of those that people should know about?
Well, there's some great bills that are going out, and people don't realize that a lot of the bills that we pass in the legislature, probably well over 70%, we all agree on them. And so we get those bills out. But then there are the controversial bills. Yeah. And a couple of the bills that they have one of them is this rent control. And people don't understand that they are putting a cap on housing. And it's never worked in history. It's never worked within the United States, and different states are trying it. And a perfect example is what's happened in Sweden. Right. It really creates, in the long run, unaffordable housing. So that really is tough. There's a lot of people that are in really dire need of help on their rents because they keep going up. And I understand, I agree, and we have some solutions, and we've introduced those solutions, but but they aren't being heard.
Yeah.
And so that is probably one of the primary issues that we're working on right now. And then there's some other bills out there. Some of them I've introduced that are fun bills that people are going to enjoy. It's called a cafe bill that will allow little cafes or coffee shops within neighborhoods, and that really contributes to the area along the I-5 corridor, and it's a real hit with the people in the urban areas. And so those are good bills. I have a litter bill out there that's going to increase the infraction from a level 3 down to a class up to a class 2 that will put a little stiffer penalties on littering in the state. Man, there's littering going all over where you cross the river or across the line, and Oregon has a $6,250 fine, and you drive along their freeways and they're just totally clean. You drive into our freeways and the infraction's $50, and we're going to bring it up to maybe $125. We need it more, but we'll start with $125.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the bills you're mentioning encapsulate everything from the large bills, rent control, right? Where that will, reduce the amount of inventory, can drive rents up, to your cafe bill, which is a really cool bill, and it's a smaller bill, but will create revenue, improve quality of life. Folks in urban areas like that kind of stuff. It's really important for people, I think, to know that if they want to learn more about any of these bills and your views on them, I would go to representativemarkklicker.com. That's the best way to learn about your priorities. But there's the bigger looming issue of budgets. So, there's a lot out there talking about the fact that we're in a budget crisis despite revenue being up. What do you want to say to some of the Fix Washington podcast listeners about that?
Well, we got to quit spending.
Yeah.
And the money that was provided to us a few years ago from the federal government from the COVID crisis, we just took that money and we went out to buy the new Cadillacs and the new airplanes and all that, which I'm being a little facetious there, but we are putting it into programs that can't carry the weight now where we're kind of being brought back down to earth.
Right.
And so we have to quit spending. People cannot afford new taxes.
Right.
And that's what's being considered as new taxes. We can't do that. Yeah. Now, getting back, I can throw something in. I have one bill I introduced that has to do with affordability, and that is my affordable housing task force, cost drivers. And what it does is brings people together throughout the state that are experiencing hardships and have the information, such as your builders and your realtors and your economists and architects and utility companies and tenants and landlords and people that are in labor, the unions, and they're going to come together and they're going to work with all the information they bring, and we're going to develop a report to find out what really is it that is causing the high cost of housing. It doesn't matter if we're building housing or we're creating rentals. We are trying to find what the root of the problem is. Once we can do that, then we have a foundation to build on and start introducing real legislation that will bring down the cost of housing.
Well, it sounds like you're really trying to fix Washington by solving these problems with real solutions, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Mark, I want to thank you for coming on the Fix Washington podcast. If you want to learn more about Mark Klicker, go to representativemarkklicker.com. If you want to learn about the House Republican priorities, go to houserepublicans.wa.gov. And if you want to stop some of the bad bills that Mark mentioned, you can go to the top of houserepublicans.wa.gov and click on the Stop Bad Bills tab. Until next week, this was the Fix Washington podcast.
Fix Washington with Hannah Scott, a podcast from Washington House Republicans. Go to our website, houserepublicans.wa.gov. Find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube.